If you're a plumber or a friend in the trades, you're in the right place. Today, our guest at the table is Jeff Light. He is the founder of ScheduleBot, a cutting-edge software scheduling program for the trades. Jeff has also been a marketer, a longtime marketer in his own right, president and founder of Vital Storm. And at heart, though, Jeff is a software developer. Tell us about ScheduleBot and how it helps contractors make more money.
Hey, Paul. First of all, thank you for having me on. Thank you for the nice introduction. And honestly, ScheduleBot is kind of given away in the name of the system, right? It's about scheduling jobs for home service companies and doing it at a very high rate. So, like, for example, normally when I talk about ScheduleBot, people really get tired of me talking about this thing called conversion rate. But we all know conversion rates are extremely important. And so really that's kind of ScheduleBot's claim to fame. It came into being, when we were really talking with a big home service company here in the Dallas-Fort Worth market called Baker Brothers. And they just weren't happy with their online scheduling. In fact, they did everything they could do to not get people to schedule online. And why is that? It's because their conversion rate was about, 25%. So in other words, 25% of the people that tried to do an online schedule or tried to schedule a job online with Baker Brothers were actually successful. And so that was our challenge, honestly, is trying to get in and just make that better. But of course, the devil's in the details. There's a lot to ScheduleBot now. It's about online scheduling at the heart of it, but there's a lot more to it now. For example, texting, scheduling through texting or through messaging, right? And ultimately even answering after hours and overflow calls via an AI-based voice system. But all that kind of comes together to really create this system that we now call ScheduleBot.
And the importance of online scheduling is greater than ever. People are turning phone averse more than ever. And ScheduleBot, as I understand it, it has voice, it has text, it has a platform, a chat bot on the website itself. It also integrates into LSA. It also integrates into Service Titan and House Call Pro. So it is like a tentacled octopus to enable the plumber to reach customers wherever they are. And tell us, do you want to give us a demo, a little tour about what it is and how it works? And why does it do better than its larger, well-known peer in terms of conversion rate? Tell us.
No, that sounds good. And so, I always kind of joke with people, no desktop PowerPoints, no PowerPoints. But I do have a screen that if you're cool with it, I'll share and just kind of walk you through a few of the reports. Okay, so you should see a website from a company called Baker Brothers Plumbing. It's really kind of hard to tell the ScheduleBot story without at least mentioning Baker Brothers. As I was kind of saying earlier, they just weren't happy with their online scheduling. And what I mean by that specifically is here, there's a Schedule Now button, okay? So I click this, and now it opened up the ScheduleBot AI-based form. Previously, it went to another kind of third-party system, which will go nameless, at least for this meeting, right? Where they were converting at 25 or 30%. So drum roll. So yes, there's a lot to ScheduleBot, and there's a lot to talk about, a lot of details. But at the end of the day, it's about this next report. So remember, they were scheduling, at 27%, 25% every month. This is Baker Brothers' report using ScheduleBot for just this past June. You can see they booked 1,867 online jobs during this time frame, which is honestly up 1,000 jobs from what they were getting previously. They were booking at 27%. Here you see our lead to job ratio for them last month was 72%. So we're adding 45 points, 45 percentage points to their conversion rate. And it's kind of hard to overstate how important that is. It basically has an exponential effect on your business. So instead of losing 3 out of 4, they're now booking 3 out of 4 people that try to book online. And so that's why people love ScheduleBot. Now, that said, not everybody is a Baker Brothers, okay? Not everybody's running 2,000 jobs just booked online a single month. One of my favorite clients is a company called Cannon Electric. I've known these guys for years. Jim Cannon, who owns Cannon Electric, is a great person, a great contact. When I first started talking to him about ScheduleBot, they were booking 3 or 4 jobs a month. They had an online form, like I'm sure you've seen before, a contact form, basically. They didn't really know their conversion rate, but just through my experience, I've worked with these for a long time. They were probably converting 20-25% of those forms submitted into jobs. Like I said before, he was getting 3 or 4. Well, here you can see this month, he got 34 jobs booked using ScheduleBot. So up 30 jobs. He loves that. That 30 jobs that Cannon Electric's getting, and then in addition, it's just as important to them as the extra 1,000 jobs we're getting Baker Brothers. Okay. Now, in all fairness, it's not all coming through online booking. Cannon Electric also, they were missing calls. Okay. So in my former life, when I was a marketer, I might be running, a PPC campaign for someone. They might be spending $50,000, $100,000 a month on that paid search campaign. They would call me up and go, "Hey, Jeff, man, I don't know what's going on. We're not getting the jobs. We're spending all this money. What's happening?" So I would kind of be on my heels. And we did a really good job at tracking phone calls back then. And so I would be looking at their phone calls that were coming in, and I noticed, well, you're not answering the phone like 35% of the time, And of course, they're like, "No way. We answer the phone on the second ring every single time," until they look at the report. Then all of a sudden, they're on their fields, right? Trying to understand what to do next. Well, ScheduleBot is filling that hole, if you will, for Cannon Electric. So these are 12 booked jobs that would have gone unanswered, would have gone to voicemail, or just rang and someone hang up. So that's 12 booked jobs that Cannon Electric was able to book. 22 were booked via the online form at, again, a 73% conversion rate. We love that. Now, remember, that's up from 3 or 4. And so that's why people love ScheduleBot. So, yes, there are a lot of features and functions I want to kind of briefly touch on with you, but it comes down to capturing more jobs, dropping them on your dispatch board. That's what ScheduleBot comes down to.
And Jeff, what's the reason that you get a higher conversion rate exactly from other scheduling tools?
There's a lot to it, but honestly, the simple way to say it is this: we keep it as simple as possible. So, for example, imagine this is someone's website, okay? And I click Schedule Now here, and it's going to open up a ScheduleBot kind of demo form. Then the first thing I do is I get contact information, okay? And I go through and I let them, welcome them back, right? Now, this is my demo system. I've got my address in here a couple of times. Most customers will just have one address, but some might have multiple, but it allows them to go through and select their address and go forward. I kind of joke that this is my had you at hello moment. I mean, half the customers, on a typical home service company's website are probably returning customers. I've worked with them before. So why not show them some love right off the bat? I'm not going to go anyplace else. I'm going to book with this company. The next thing we do to keep it simple, this is where the AI comes in. We just let the customer, in their own words, describe their problem. We're not putting them through a decision tree where they've got to kind of map it out themselves. Is it plumbing? Is it HVAC? Is it electrical? Oh, it's plumbing. Is it a clogged drain? Is it a water heater? Is it a fixture install? And they've got to work their way down, right? I like to joke that I've been lucky that, I have, of course, always worked full time. My wife was able to stay home and take care of our kids. She's the one in charge of managing our house and scheduling jobs. Now, this is a little facetious, but she might even type in something like, "The big fan outside is not working," right? Now, we all know we're talking about our air conditioning system. The AI takes this, though, and maps it to a job type. Now, in some cases, it may actually go in and ask them follow-up questions, okay? And you'll see here, I can tell how old the system is. Maybe it's 15 years old, 3 systems. Now, of course, if a system is 15 years old, where's that go in the job priority? Higher, right? So ScheduleBot's also looking at this information and going through and trying to help you schedule or prioritize your jobs when they should be scheduled. So this is today's date. So you'll notice it's offering a same-day appointment, even though we may be booked up. So anyway, we give you the option to prioritize those jobs based upon revenue potential. Now, again, keeping it simple, the customer simply selects the time, they move forward. At this point, it's going to go through, kind of show the customer, about the job they booked. Down here, if there was a dispatch fee, we would have a dispatch fee. Now, for an AC or furnace quote, probably not going to charge a dispatch fee, right? We don't need that extra friction. But maybe if it was a drain clog, there may be some kind of a standard dispatch fee. That's where we would fit this. Now, I'm kind of combining some, based upon, trying to keep this as short as I can. Normally, I would go through and say, book this now, and go through and do a whole nother job. If I click this book it now button, yes, it goes directly to your dispatch board if you're running one of the CRMs that we're integrated into. And basically, if your CRM has got an API, we can build integration into it. Okay. In this case, though, what I'm going to do is it's not a perfect world. Right now, I'm sitting here. I've got multiple screens. I've got a keyboard. I'm able to quietly go through and schedule my home service job. But in the real world, what am I doing this? I'm doing this on my phone, right? My wife calls, my kid calls. What do? I don't click the book it now button. I panic and I close it. I've got to answer the phone when the wife calls. So where'd my replacing four 15-year-old HVAC job go? Well, it sort of goes into digital la la land. But another thing that our customers really love about ScheduleBot is this whole concept of second chance leads. So in other words, we give you a second swing at every single job. So this is, again, the ScheduleBot backend. This is my demo system. But if I go in here to the leads, see here it says, I know it's small, that says not booked, Jeff Light, HVAC or furnace. So we're capturing that information as it's being entered in. So it's never truly lost. And one of two things can happen here. We'll forward all this job information to your team so they can do an outbound call. Like, hey, Mr. Light, saw you on our website. Looks like you got an AC problem. Great news. I've got a technician will be by your house this afternoon. Why don't they stop by and take care of that for you, right? Our customers can do a better job at selling this than I can. The other thing we can do is if you don't have that outbound person is we can have ScheduleBot, reach out to that customer via a text messaging thread. And we actually set up a sequence of text messages that can go to that customer to do what? To reclaim this job. Okay. And our customers love this. Now, a company as big as Baker Brothers, they're getting over 100 jobs like this booked a month. It's a lot. Okay. Even a company though like Hannon Electric, which I just discussed, they're getting 3 or 4, and that keeps a technician busy for a day or two. So they love it. So that's really why we're so successful in getting people through this online scheduling is we just keep it simple. And then we're dotting every I and crossing every T when it comes to following up on opportunities. Last thing I will say is this, and you alluded to this earlier, is scheduling has kind of gone off the website. So yes, when I think about this, I'm thinking about, clicking this schedule now button. But there is also what? There's also your Google My Business page. So your Google My Business page, if you're a home service company, this may be your most important local SEO strategy is making sure that Google My Business page is optimized. This is what drives all those map listings, that map pack that we all want to show up in, right? And so the Google integration allows us to drop this book online button right here. So this doesn't take them to the website, right? This takes them directly to ScheduleBot so the customer can do what? They can schedule their job, right? Think of it as open table for home services, if you will. So this will book a lot of jobs for our customers. Last but not least, I like to talk about local service ads. Local service ads are probably the most cost-effective way to advertise on Google to drive, home service jobs. So right here, this whole book online button, this comes from actually both these companies. Both of these book online buttons are linked to ScheduleBot, right? Now, I'm not going to click it in this case because, as you know, LSA is watching these stats. And I don't want to accidentally mess up or impact Baker Brothers or Milestone stats. But having these book online buttons there, again, it makes you appear more responsive. So maybe you probably realize this, but Google is evaluating your responsiveness to these ads based upon they kind of keep this score, right? Now, we don't know how their scoring is, right? We don't see the score anywhere, but their scoring is. And based upon your responsiveness, they'll show your ad more or less. So the more responsive you can be, not only are you converting at a higher rate, but they're showing your ad more for those most cost-effective ads that are, in fact, that we can get through Google. So let me take a deep breath. So you've got any questions on that part of it? And I'll kind of move on.
As you know, Jeff, we have some clients with ScheduleBot, and they're very happy with it. And one of the things that ScheduleBot does that others do not is conversational text. So you can go to the GBP link and you can communicate with the plumbing company directly through the embedded text button, book entirely through text conversation, and not have to deal with a calendar. Some of our clients really wanted that, and that's an innovation that you have.
That's exactly right. And, we used to talk about it as a chat session, right? And that's kind of what this looks like here is a chat session, okay? We talk about it more as messaging now. And chat, for some people, chat sort of got this sort of like negative vibe. And it was because we spent all this time chatting in our information. And at the end of the chat, it would say something like, great, thanks for all your information and spending the last 10 minutes entering it. Someone will get back to you shortly to complete your booking. And that's like, wah, wah. No one wants that, right? We live in a society now that wants immediate, gratification. So instead of doing some kind of fake chats for you, this is another great company called the WireNut. This is their report from last month. I can go in here and I can look at their web chats. You can see they booked 24 at a 78% conversion rate. This actually shows us the conversations as they're coming in. I can click on Lauren, for example, and see what's going on there. And so you can see it starts with a greeting. Now, I will tell you this, that on the voice system specifically, people always ask me, well, should you tell them it's an AI? And I'm like, you absolutely should, because you can tell, right? When you listen to it in AI voice, it's very good, as you'll hear. Now, in this world, though, I don't believe people know that they're chatting with an AI. The AI is that good, okay? So, for example, we give them a greeting, hey, need help with HVAC or plumbing or electrical? Please describe your issue. Lauren says, I need an outlet replaced. Here's an empathy statement, right? Hey, sorry you're dealing with that. To get started, could I please get your phone number? So I know there's no real empathy here. It is AI, but every study under the sun says that we should be offering empathy in these situations. Now, I'm not talking about going crazy, but hey, sorry you're dealing with that, but you've called the right company, we can help. Empathy reassurance. Then ScheduleBot does what? We get contact information up front, right? That's the way the forum works. That's the way that the chat sessions or the messaging sections work as well. And you can see now it gathers the address. It says, are you the homeowner? Yes. It's going to ask some questions like, how old is your home? 42 years old. What date? They say today. We give them options. They selected Wednesday. Here, we've got a dispatch fee. So what do we do first? Even the chat session builds value. A skilled certified electrician, a skilled certified technician will assist. There's a $29 dispatch fee, right? Yes. Here's what we want. Your appointment is confirmed. That's what we're after, is making sure that appointment is confirmed. This is what our customers want. This person can move on and cross this off their to-do list. And that's why, the online scheduling through either texting or, in this case, kind of a chat messaging session is so successful.
Your AI voice sounds remarkably human. Do you want to demo that voice?
Absolutely. So this is our backend system. Again, these are the conversations. This is just a recording that I did for a little bit earlier. Let me set this for today. Yeah, this is one I did a little bit earlier today. A couple things I'll point out in here is I don't think we have enough time to really go into all the customizations and how the whole thing is customized, right? Happy to do that for whoever wants to hear it at a later time. But I like to give it a little bit of a hard time, right? If it's no fun if I just go and just schedule without asking you questions. So a few things I'll point out. And this first part, I kind of have to laugh at myself because I don't speak Spanish, but we do work with a lot of companies in areas where it speaks Spanish. So the first thing I'm going to say is, ask it if it speaks Spanish. Then I'm going to quickly ask it to speak English to me so I understand what it's saying. But you can see it can switch between voices, right? You'll hear me ask things like, well, what does this cost? Or, what can cause this? Sort of off the wall questions. then ultimately, it's going to talk to me about dispatch fees. Dispatch fees are a place where we get a lot of pushback. People don't want to pay dispatch fees necessarily, and they don't want to pay them because they don't understand what they're getting for their money. But you'll hear me interrupt the AI on purpose. AIs are notorious for getting this thing where you interrupt them and they don't stop. And then it tries to talk while you're talking. So we want the AI to stop and listen, just like we would have a highly trained CSR do. So you'll hear me interrupt it. Then at the end, you'll hear me give the objection. I always end it with this, well, let me check with my wife first, because that's the way it goes in my house anyway, is I need to check with my wife first about everything like this. So I'll throw that as ScheduleBot. And you'll see in our best practices, we have it set right now so that ScheduleBot will say, hey, would you like me to hold this appointment for you, while you go check with her? And then, of course, I'm going to say yes, right? So that's what you can kind of listen for in this call. But I'll just play this call for you and answer questions afterwards. Cool?
Sounds good.
Hi, it is a great day here at Aero Plumbing and Drain Services. I am Chloe, a virtual team member here to help when things get busy or after hours. How can I help?
¿Hablas español?
Sí, hablo español. ¿En qué puedo ayudarle hoy?
Actually, switch back to English.
Of course. How can I help you today?
Yeah, I've got water sort of leaking up through the floor of my house, and I'm not sure where it's coming from.
I'm sorry you're dealing with water coming up through the floor. Let's get that taken care of. I see we have you in our system as Jeff. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is this the best number to reach you?
Uh-huh.
Is your address still the one on Greenbrier Circle?
Yes, it is.
Is there anything else you want to tell me about the water coming up through your floor?
Well, what could cause something like that?
It could be a few things, like a slab leak or a broken pipe under the foundation. And that's something we'd want to check quickly to prevent damage. Are you noticing warm water, or does it feel cold?
It feels cold.
All right, give me a sec. Do you know if it seems like fresh water, or could it be sewer water?
I think it's fresh water.
Okay, one moment. I can get someone out Wednesday, July 15th, between 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect. I'll get someone out Wednesday, July 15th, between 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. There's a $79 dispatch fee for this visit, and that covers sending
wait a second. What about what's the dispatch fee thing again?
That's a great question. The dispatch fee covers having a licensed, background checked, fully insured technician come out to your home, assess the issue, and give you clear options and upfront pricing before any work is done. Would you like to go ahead and keep that Wednesday afternoon slot?
Actually, let me check with my wife real quick. I want to make sure someone's going to be home during that time.
No problem at all. Would you like me to hold that Wednesday afternoon spot for you while you check with her?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Perfect. Just to confirm, there's a $79 dispatch fee for the visit, which covers the licensed technician coming out and diagnosing the issue with upfront pricing before any work is done. Is that okay?
That sounds good.
Okay, I'm getting this booked for you now. All set. You're scheduled for Wednesday, July 15th, between 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. You'll receive a confirmation shortly. Thank you so much for choosing Aero Plumbing. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
So that's an example of how a call could go. There are many, many, many different variations of that call. So, for example, it could be an emergency call, after hours call, right? And one of the really cool things about when we book after hours call, an after hours job like this, is we do notify the on-call technician, so that doesn't sit there and just go unnoticed. So there's a lot of features and functions that are kind of behind the scenes here happening. But at least that gives you a good example of how the voice can sound, at least in this one specific instance.
And can you customize the voice?
can you customize the voice? You can. We typically like let our customers, we'll install like 3 or 4 voices for them. And so I wouldn't say we're really customizing a lot of voices. Now, in theory, you can clone a voice. Like in theory, I could take a recording of your voice and clone a voice that sounds a lot like you. Most of our customers will go with one of the voices that we have that are sort of already prepared. There are just a lot more that kind of go into them, and they just seem to work a little bit better to me. But you can select a guy voice, a girl voice. You can go through several choices and pick the one that you like the most.
And suppose you have a Weisenheimer like me who calls up and says to the AI, I am radically pro-human, and I'm not ashamed of that. So I need to talk to a human being or I'm out of here.
Yeah, right.
Do you have an answer for that?
We do. So one of the things that we will set up, so this is kind of the process we go through when we set up our customers' accounts. You'll see there's a section here called call routing. Now, in my demo system, I have it just very simple, where it's just kind of like a mainline office, which is actually my cell phone number. But we can make this pretty complicated. So you could set up call routing to go to various departments of your company, even go to specific people. But the devil's in the details. There's a start and end time to these call forwarding, So, for example, if someone calls and says, "Can I speak to a human at 9:30 in the morning?" It's a little different than if someone calls, "Can I speak to a human at 9:30 at night?" You might not have those people in the office, or you may just set up a whole separate number for those after hours calls when someone wants to speak to a human. Now, let's say that there's not a human available. At that point, we create what we call follow-up action items. And a follow-up action item is basically, it's like us taking a message. So it ends up being like an email or a text that goes to normally your CSR team or your CSR manager to let you know that you need to get in touch with this customer as soon as possible. Now, the AI, typically, we can obviously, schedule jobs, we can cancel jobs, we can reschedule jobs and give a job status, okay? But, a lot of calls that come into home service companies are not about scheduling at all, okay? They're a salesperson, which we can have ScheduleBot transfer over that nasty salesperson voicemail that never gets listened to, right? Or it's, it can be whatever, right? But ScheduleBot can also kind of triage those calls for you, transfer them where they need to go, take messages when they need to be taken, but then book jobs when that booking opportunity is available.
So the bottom line is that it's flexible. So if you want to build in protections to give a human to a customer, you can do that, or you can go full AI. I like that it's that flexible.
That's exactly right. Now the AI, oftentimes, let's say just like our standard configuration, if I just say, "Can I speak to a human?" it's going to ask me what I'm calling for, and it might soft sell me on getting, trying to get me to let it book the job for me like one time. It might say something like, "Hey, Paul, I can take care of that for you right now. Could you schedule? Or if you still want, I can go ahead and transfer you to our office." So it might take one shot at getting you to let it book the job for you, but more than one pushback, it'll go ahead and transfer you.
So, Jeff, this has been great on the how. Can we take a step back and go through some why questions?
Sure.
And you've have a long perspective on home services. And so one question is, why should plumbers have online scheduling? What's the straight deal on that? We just take it now for granted. But why should you have online scheduling in today's marketplace?
That's a great question. And first of all, it's on the uptick. There's a whole group of people called millennials out there that we used to think about as these snotty-nosed little kids, right? Not so much anymore. They're in their 40s. They're buying homes, right? Anybody that age group or younger, 70% of them would rather schedule with their thumbs or online, right, than actually talk to a human, much less an AI. And so it's just opening up another way for people to interface with your company. At the end of the day, the real why you want to do it is because you're getting more jobs booked, right? You've got people seeing your Schedule Now button on things like your Google My Business page. You've got people seeing your Schedule Now button on things like your LSA ads. So it's coming. And even someone with, I've got my gray hair hidden under this hat, but even someone with as much gray hair as I have got, for example, I'm trying to take my wife out to a nice dinner for our anniversary, go to a fancy restaurant in Dallas. I'm trying to call, I'm not having much luck. I discovered this thing called Open Table. It took me like a minute to get my reservation. And it was so good, I didn't believe it. I called the restaurant anyway. Of course, they're like, dude, we got you. Okay. Yes, we know there's this thing called Open Table. Hello. Well, now I would never schedule with a restaurant that I couldn't use Open Table for. Right. So as our customers get more and more educated on how easy it is and how fast it is to schedule online, I believe we're going to see more and more people moving that direction.
I've noticed just in the last 3 years a real acceleration in speed to lead. Do you see that as well? And the question is, why do you believe speed to lead matters even more today than it did 5 years ago? What's happening to the marketplace that everybody's talking about speed to lead today? And you're in the middle of it, of course, with scheduling.
Right. First of all, speed to lead, it's a catchy phrase, right? Speed to lead. It makes a lot of sense, right? But what's happened is that there are a lot of these kind of what I call lead aggregators that exist out there, the Angie's List, the Thumbtacks, the Yelps, right? And even Google LSA to some extent. And the thing like the contractors don't like about systems like Angie's List is they let you send out a request to 5 different contractors at once for your job. So it's instantly a competition. This lead goes to the contractor as an email. So if I'm not sitting there watching my email and replying within 30 seconds, that's too late. These people are in market for about 5 minutes. So the speed to lead aspect of it is ScheduleBot's got integration into these systems like Angie's List and Thumbtack. So it's watching for those leads to come into your company, and it's going to reply immediately via text message. Okay. So while we can't guarantee you're going to get every one of these jobs, we can guarantee you'll be the first one to respond. Okay. So that's the genesis of speed to lead, is helping you win that competition when you've got leads going out to multiple people, right? Or you feel like your customers getting quotes from multiple different businesses. We want you to get back to them as quickly as possible. So ultimately, that's the functionality we're providing.
That's a great answer. Can we end on this note? You covered a lot here, and we saw the pretty steep increase in numbers that ScheduleBot delivers, being present in the lead systems that plumbers use. But can you sort of restate and help us understand, before and after ScheduleBot, what percentage benefit is a mid-level 10-truck plumbing company going to kind of feel when before and after ScheduleBot and before and after scheduling? How far does that needle move from your experience across the customer base?
I mean, so everyone is different. Okay. So, and these 10 truck company, pretty good size out there, right? It's hard to say just sitting here right now where their leads are coming from. But if I'm going to kind of do a generalization, right? I mean, I believe you will see probably between a 15 and 20% bump in just leads scheduled in general. So a 15 to 20% bump in just revenue, right? Because we're taking out that friction when it comes to online scheduling. Okay. A company that big is probably going to go from getting, 10 jobs booked a month, okay, to getting like 50 or 60 jobs booked a month. So it's a delta of, 50, 60 jobs to get every single month that otherwise would have gone missed. Then you can apply your average ticket to that and see what the impact is, right? So that's kind of at the, really generalization of what I see with companies that size. It's significant. It makes, honestly, I have to say this, it makes ScheduleBot the best investment they've ever made, right? Because the ROI is massive because they're just getting more jobs booked, right? And there's no advertising cost. So you're just taking the advertising you're already getting and getting way more out of it. Another thing I sometimes will talk to people about is this whole concept of cost per acquisition. We're always tracking what's it cost to acquire a new customer. And this is really where you can show how conversion rate makes a huge difference. So keeping the math really simple for me, if you've got a lead cost of $100, okay, and so we're not your marketer. You've got a marketing team that's in charge of in charge of driving leads at as low a cost as they can. They're driving leads at $100. If your conversion rate is 25%, okay, it takes 4 leads to get 1 job. Simple math, it's a $400 cost per acquisition for that 1 job. Okay? If you increase that conversion rate to 70%, I should have done this math ahead of time, anticipated this question, but it's going to take your cost per acquisition to like $125, right? It doesn't even take 2 leads to get a job, okay? So you're going from a $400 cost per acquisition to a $125 cost per acquisition. So how much more efficient does that make your marketing? It's massive, right? That's why I say it's exponential in its effect.
So instead of paying Google more, you get more out of Google.
There you go, right? That's right.
Well, Jeff, let's close on this. You are an entrepreneur. You have been a dyed-in-the-wool marketer, and you are also a dyed-in-the-wool software developer. Which do you like better?
That's a great question. I love what I'm doing now. This got me back to my roots. My wife always jokes that I'm the biggest nerd in any room I walk into, and I've just learned to own it over the years, right? And so right now, I'm really enjoying software development. And I will say this, marketing has changed over the years. So when I started doing marketing for home service companies, it actually was a very technical endeavor. We did all kinds of tricks. I go all the way back to the days, and you're going to probably laugh at this, but I would literally have things like a website with a white background and the word plumber 1 million times in white text, right? Now, obviously, we can't get away with that stuff anymore, but I kind of go back to the wild, wild west days of marketing where it really was a technical endeavor. And that's why I think I thrived at it. I really leaned into, in my marketing days, conversion tracking before conversion tracking was even a thing, okay? But now marketing has changed, right? Marketing it's much more high-level driven. The different marketing platforms take care of a lot of that dirty work for us. And honestly, a lot of that stuff is not allowed, as it should not be allowed. What I was doing back then, I didn't know it was gray hat or black hat marketing. I just thought that's what you did to get jobs on the board, right? Or to sell stuff online. Where now the world of coding has also changed, right? But it really lets me get back to my technical roots. It lets me sort of exercise that part of my brain that I love, and that's my strength. Now, that said, coding has also changed a lot. When I was writing software, I was writing operating systems, so really like low level, machine level type stuff where I'm actually addressing different areas of memory, looking at how the disk rotates and the actual heads actuate inside to read data. We're not doing any more of that these days, right? So we're actually really lucky. Our whole team works in the same office that I'm in right now. So our technical team is not scattered around the world. We're all located here pretty much in the DFW market, in Rockwall, Texas, to be specific. But our team, our coders are almost like project managers now. So they've got multiple AI agents writing this code, and they're project managing they've got 6 different AI coders working for them, and they're in their project managing, putting it all together, coming up with the ideas, building the prompts. And yes, they get in and fine tune the code. I just think that's amazing. So we're able to produce code at 100 times the rate that we produced it back when I was writing it. So all those things come together. Getting back to answer your question, as I love what I'm doing now, I'm not trying to poo-poo any marketers out there, right? That's a very important function, right? Yeah, and I loved it, and I did really well at it for a long time, but I'm super happy where I'm at. I feel like that, Recreate was kind of a godsend for me. It got me excited about my career again. It got me really excited about building something and taking it to market with the teams that I have here today.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for being at the table. We appreciate the insights here, and everyone will see you in the next episode of the Plumbing Marketing Success Podcast.
Awesome, Paul. Thank you so much for having me.